going to get into the ideas and concepts that we use for our paper, that I use for my paper. I'm going to go ahead and be talking about the utilitarianism theory that I use that we discussed in class. And then my topic that I decided to discuss is abortions. Whether you're pro-choice, pro-life, what are the differences, and why I believe the utilitarianism would believe that having an abortion is quote-unquote the right thing to do, or something that is morally right versus morally wrong. So kind of let's get into it. Morality, right away, right off the bat, let's talk about morality. Morality is based on, it's arbitrary. To me, I believe morality, everyone's morals are different. So if you want to talk about, what I believe is morally right can be different than what my neighbor or my friends think are morally right versus morally wrong. It's arbitrary. I think a lot of it comes from cultural differences, environmental differences, just kind of how you grow up. You kind of learn about different things and why they're right and wrong. Religion comes into play a lot. Religion morals, ethic morals. So all these are kind of going to be touched a little bit in this discussion. So let's just kind of get right into it. Utilitarianism states that they advocate the idea of overall happiness and pleasure versus opposing the actions that cause unhappiness or harm. I would agree that utilitarianism, the overall actions result in the greater number of good, like the overall number of good. So when it comes to pro-choice, pro-life, abortion, there are a lot of risks and benefits that come with that, obviously, So if you're utilitarianism, you kind of got to weigh out the risks and benefits, and you got to see what's right and what's wrong. So when a woman is, let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about pro-choice and pro-life and what that even means. So when you are pro-choice, you believe that the woman that is pregnant has the right to terminate her pregnancy or keep her pregnancy, keep her baby, If you are pro-life, then that means absolutely not. That woman cannot get an abortion. You are pro-life. That life matters at the moment of conception. A lot of religious beliefs come into play with that, and that's a heavy concept, a heavy amount of people that are pro-life come into religious aspects, but we'll get into that too. So it's a touchy subject, abortion. Very, very touchy subject. Some people think it's murder. The people that are pro-life believe that abortion is murder. Like same as if someone were to go out in the street and shoot somebody, that's murder. They think it's the same thing, you're ending a human life. They don't value life, they would say. And I understand. I understand why they're saying that and understand where they come from. But on the flip side, women should have the right to choose if they want to end their pregnancy or not. Obviously, in a safe time frame. You're not 3 months or 9 months pregnant, ending your pregnancy. Like, no, that's a whole nother thing. It's dangerous. That's just not the correct way to go about it. But so let's just talk about why I believe that these women should have their right to end their pregnancy. Many factors come into that. If a woman was abused, sexually assaulted, and ended in pregnancy, the risk outweigh the benefits for all people involved, the woman, the family, the child in mention. If the woman was assaulted, abused, Or maybe she's just unfit. She's unfit, unwilling, and uninterested in having a child. So like it can be so many different aspects. It can be all the way from the very, very worst thing you can possibly think about to just simply a woman unfortunately is not ready to have her child. And that's okay. That's her right to choose. So a couple of statistics I kind of want to go into. One of the arguments they say is that the fetus, the embryo, feels pain. It feels pain. They're tortured when women are getting these procedures. Very minimal invasive procedure. You go into your doctors, they sedate you, they go ahead and in your pregnancy, they clean out your uterus, and you go home that day. Very, very low risk to that, and we'll get into that as well, as opposed to some high-risk pregnancies. So some people would even say, it's more dangerous to have a full-term baby than it is to have an abortion. Not saying that you shouldn't have babies and pregnancies are dangerous and you can get really sick or anything from that. Just saying that sometimes the risks do outweigh the benefits. So, and vice versa. So let's just kind of talk about a little bit of, stuff I found doing some research. There's this professor from the University of Santa Barbara. He's a philosophy professor. He kind of goes into a lot of detail. He was stating that the embryonic stage reveals the fertilized egg as a clump of cells with no brain. So within the first couple of weeks of the fetus being created, I guess, forming, it has no brain. And so what I was thinking was, it has no brain, so the fetus or the cells have no no transmitters of pain, of feeling. It says the nervous system does not actually begin until the first 2 weeks of gestational period. Furthermore, this man, Michael Gonzaga, he goes on to state that there's no sustainable or complexity of the nervous system until approximately 6 months of the pregnancy. So the nervous system isn't even progressed until at least 6 months of the pregnancy. So these women that are having abortions early on in their pregnancy, most women don't find out they're pregnant until 4 or 5 weeks out. And that's usually when they determine if they're going to keep their baby or not. So that flies out the window. These embryos, these fetuses, these clusters of cells that are in the woman's body that are being terminated, that are being treated and cleaned out by the physician, are not feeling anything. They're not in pain. So that kind of takes that out. That whole idea of, you're torturing these fetuses, and there's even a study I saw that some places were giving anesthesia to the fetuses because they were thinking that the fetus was being tortured and feeling pain at 10 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. So that goes that. And then another concept that I wanted to go ahead and bring up, which I mentioned a little bit earlier about the concept of it being dangerous, more dangerous. I also found a study here from the U.S. News Health Day. Serena Gordon stated, the risk of death associated with full-term pregnancies and delivery are 8.8 deaths per 100,000. 8.8 per 100,000. The risk of deaths linked to legal abortions were 0.6 deaths to 100,000 women. So it's almost 14 times more likely. A woman is almost 14 times more likely to have any type of injuries or possibly death to carry her baby to full term as opposed to if she were to terminate her pregnancy. So abortions are not dangerous for the woman. Those are just some statistics that we came across. Another thing I wanted to talk about that I felt was really important to say was the concept of a lot of people want to make abortions illegal because it's just, they find it so immorally wrong and so forth. Making abortions illegal is not going to stop women from terminating their pregnancies. It's only going to increase dangerous, illegal abortions. Women are going to be so desperate that they're going to turn into back alley type clinics. They're going to be so desperate, they're going to cross our borders and go into areas that they don't know. They're going to go into areas that have different medical situations going on, and they're going to put themselves at risk. So making this illegal isn't going to stop it. It's just going to cause more women to be more sick, cause women to die, have infections. All these things come into play. So I kind of wanted to bring that up. We're not going to stop. Abortions aren't going to stop. Women are not going to stop doing these things for numerous of reasons. You know, some women are just not mentally prepared for a woman, and I understand. None of this is taken lightly. You know, none of this is an easy decision for any woman in this situation. But it's only going to stop them from being safe, is what it's going to do if ultimately it becomes illegal. They go into unsafe environments to get these procedures, and it's not helping anybody, you know. So, got into that, you know. Oh, another cool thing that I found, that the fetus does begin to start feeling things at about the 3rd trimester, 27 weeks. I read about this from the, who told me this? The ACOG. So they said that was interesting, you know. I'm not pro-abortion. I want to make that. I'm pro-choice. I want to make that very clear. I'm not saying every woman should go out and have an abortion. That's not true. That's just not true. If it's not right for you, it's not right for you. If you think it's, you know, absolutely not in your path to do that, then you don't have to do that. But there are some women out there that for whatever reason, financial reasons, medical reasons, you know, mental reasons, that you can't go forth with that. So that's all great. I wanted to talk a little bit about so that was pro-choice. I want to talk a little bit more about pro-life, and, you know, why these people think that it's absolutely wrong to go forth with, you know, having an abortion. It's by faith. A lot of these people have faith. It's blind faith. You know, according to the Atlas Society, blind faith consists in a belief not based on evidence, but based on such forms of spirituality, of exercising the mind, of willful credibility based on subjective emotions and not of objective evidence. So, obviously it's all emotional. Every situation here is emotional, but the concepts are arbitrary. Faith is arbitrary. Morality is arbitrary. Everybody's is different. So to say that this is wrong because I believe this, you should believe that too, is not really a good argument. You know, you need to come up with the facts and the statistics, and there are some women that just aren't fit for it, you know, and they need to have that choice. They should be able to have that choice. So that's very interesting to me. And a lot of people actually, to be honest, don't even know why they believe in a certain faith that they believe in. A lot of people are just grown up in that faith, and that's just what they take on. And so they don't even know their true self sometimes, because they'll say, oh, why are you in the Christian faith? Oh, I'm not sure. My family was a Christian faith, so I just grew up with the same faith. It isn't until you dig a little deeper and you really truly believe, is this what I really want? Is this what I believe? Then you can go ahead and say, yes, this is what I believe. But a lot of people still feel that way, like, oh, well, my family was this, so I'm just going to grow up being that type of religion too. So a lot of people don't really know what they're fighting for. They're just kind of fighting for things because that's just how they grew up, you know, and it varies from household to household, cultural to cultural. So yeah. So that's all great. Just wanted to touch on a couple more things before we close out here. Let's talk about the child in question, you know. People don't really go there. Let's talk about this child that's, say, these people are being forced to keep their pregnancy. These women are being forced to keep their pregnancy for whatever reasons, for faith, for their boyfriend, their husband. Society looks down on you so poorly if you decide to terminate a pregnancy, and that's not necessarily right either. But these children are being forced to grow up in a life where their mother either resents them, treats them poorly, if she never wanted them, and then she was forced to keep them. So that's kind of heavy. That's heavy to take in. These child end up in abusive homes. They end up being neglected. The outcome is far worse than a woman ending to terminate the pregnancy, because these children end up depressed. They end up in abusive situations, having health issues, mental issues. The woman can have postpartum, depression, anxiety. All these things come into play. It's not just you can't have an abortion because it's not the right thing to do. There's so many other things at play. What about this life that you guys are fighting so hard to keep? But then once this baby is here, what's going to happen? I read also in a statistic here, and it says many forms of postpartum depression and child abuse are observed clinically because child rearing and nursing has an intensive events that uncover the mother's psychological background. Children are sent away for foster care. These children in foster care end up just as worse. You know, so it's hard. It's a hard decision, but ultimately, let's kind of wrap it up. And utilitarianism, I believe if the utilitarianism theory was in place, that they would say, yes, abortion is okay, and it is okay. So it's the right thing to do if you feel it's the right thing to do for you, because the benefits outweigh the risk. The benefits meaning this woman is not going to be left with this burden, you know, for whatever reason. She was abused, or she just didn't want the baby or something. There's health issues, you know. The risk are the child's health issues, mental stress on the woman, the family. There's so many different things that come into play. So I just kind of want to end it there on that. With this statement, an unwanted life can be far worse than no life at all. That spoke volumes to me. An unwanted life can be far worse than no life at all. We are talking about, you know, people and people's lives and their livelihood and their families, and if it's not the right thing to do, then it's not the right thing to do for that family. And nobody should be the judge of that except that person and that family. So thank you for listening. Thank you for kind of just going through the motions with me. I do truly feel strongly about this concept, and I think that many people probably wouldn't agree, and this is, you know, all around the world, this is a heavy concept. And I think people should be able to talk about this openly and freely, and have the discussion, and we shouldn't look down on it, because at the end of the day, we're all going through it, and we're all human, and these things are going to happen. They're going to happen regardless. So it's kind of just, easier to talk about these things and get these conversations out there and educate people. Let's just keep people educated and keep growing and learning. And thank you for listening to me.